Alright, what's up, you guys? This is Devin from Century Effects Studios, and I'd like to thank you guys a happy Thanksgiving before we get into this video. If you celebrate, happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays if I don't see you before then, but I'm intending on making videos in December. So with that being said, let's get into this video. JPEG does not equal amateur, guys. This is a follow-up to my RAW versus JPEG video, Jared Pollen and Tony Northrup thing. Like, I got a lot of comments on my videos saying, oh, well, if you're a professional, you shoot RAW. And if you're an amateur, you shoot JPEG. It's really not that discreet, guys. So basically, when you're shooting, when you first get your camera's in a mode called JPEG. That is the default camera setting, like Tony Northrup said. It's a default camera setting when you first get your camera. You get small JPEG, you can get medium-sized JPEG, you can get large-sized JPEG. But with that being said, 99.9% of people, when they first get their first camera, they're going to be shooting JPEG because, one, it's one of the easiest file formats to take from your camera to your computer, and from your computer onto Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, or from your computer to a printing machine or anywhere else in the world. JPEG is probably one of the most widely used file formats for pictures. Now, with that being said, basically what JPEG is a compressed file format. Your camera usually takes raw images first, and then it's going to look at its settings and say, oh, well, should this be JPEG or RAW? Should I keep this RAW or JPEG? And it knows this in a fraction of a second based off of what you set it to. Essentially, that's what happens. So when you get your JPEG out, this is based off of whatever your camera set. You set your saturation, your color profile, your picture profile, whatever your camera calls your sharpening and your saturation and all this other ingredients that you can add to your image to pump it up. That's what it's doing. That's your JPEG. That's the ingredients of your JPEG, your picture style and things of that nature. So with that being said, on top of your picture is your extra saturation or sharpness or whatever you put in there, your contrast from in camera. Now, the difference between RAW and JPEG is that RAW doesn't take into any of that account. It just takes the image, and none of the camera processing is done to it. It just takes all the image information and it gives it to you and spits it out at you. Now, whether you can read it in your laptop or not is a big problem, because usually people who invest into Lightroom and Photoshop are able to see RAW files, and therein lies, okay, RAWs are meant for professionals because professionals invest into their equipment to the point where they can read RAW files and actually do something with them. But here's the catch-22 with that. There are new programs that are free, probably on iPhone, at this apps just that actually can read RAW files. Windows 10 can read RAW files a lot better than Windows XP and Windows 7 could. So you can pretty much any up-to-date Windows or even Mac computer can read RAW files without even you having to put it into like a program or anything like that. So I'm pretty sure even the basic, starter software from Mac or Windows could even edit a RAW file. If it can read it, it could probably edit it too. So with that being said, that old debate of you can't see your RAW files because you haven't invested into Lightroom or Photoshop is out the window. So people don't have to invest to actually interact with their RAW files now. See, that was the thing. People used to say, oh, RAW files, professional. Amateurs, JPEGs, because people couldn't access their RAW files. And every time you would look at it on your computer, it was like corrupt, or like Windows, you would get just like a random flower animation window instead of it actually being your image in a thumbnail. So with that being said, that debate's out of the window. RAW is not just for professionals. It can also be for people who are beginners. Especially if you're just trying to like dabble with RAW. Okay, every image that I take, I'm going to take a RAW, or I'll shoot RAW plus JPEG. There's a reason why the 1DX doesn't just have RAW images. The 1DX, the flagship for Canon, also has JPEGs. It has small JPEGs. It has all different sizes of JPEGs. And if you just wanted to put it on JPEG, you can do that. But what? The 1D It's considered a professional camera, right? So with that being said, professionals do shoot JPEG. And then on top of that, I still have a Canon T1i. Came out in the early 2000s. It's definitely not a professional level camera. But it came out around the time the 5D Mark One came out. Came out around the time around between 5D Mark One and 5D Mark Two. With that being said, you can still shoot RAW with that. Well, why would you be able to shoot RAW with a camera that is definitely not tailored for professionals? It's tailored for people who are just trying to get it. Any T series Rebel, you can shoot RAW with it. I'm pretty sure any T5, T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6, T7, you can shoot RAW with it. You can shoot RAW with a lot of cameras that are just made for beginners. So with that being said, JPEG does not equal amateur. Now, even though you can shoot JPEG with all these cameras, RAW is pretty much on all of these cameras too. Matter of fact, yeah, RAW is on all of these cameras too. So that means it doesn't matter what level you're on. It doesn't, because if the manufacturers thought, oh, only professionals shoot RAW, they would just have RAW on professional cameras. Just like they only have certain features on professional cameras, like high burst rates and stuff like that, because they only think professionals need it. You see what I'm saying? Big battery grips on these 1DXs, and it's ingrained in one, like it's one body, like the whole body is just like a big DSLR with the body. You can't take the battery off, the battery grip off. It's a part of the body. 2 batteries. Why would they give you 2 batteries on the 1D? Because that's what professionals need. So why wouldn't they just give you RAW if you were professional? You see what I'm saying? So the debate doesn't go too far with this RAW versus JPEG. RAW being for professionals and JPEG being just for beginners. So another thing that Tony had mentioned is, hey guys, why don't you just take a RAW image here and there, dabble with it, see if you like it, and bang, you're a beginner now and you're shooting with RAW. Because RAW is so much easier to use nowadays. Now think about it this way. What if you're a professional and you shot JPEG? If you're a pro and you shoot JPEG, you're just a film photographer now. You see what I'm saying? Because now, with that being said, there's a little caveat. You could take your film into the dark room and do all this other stuff and stuff like that. But I don't think so many people did darkroom as much as people think they did, because darkroom was very, very expensive. And a lot of other stuff was very, very expensive when you're processing your negatives and your film. So with that being said, I don't think a lot of people went into the darkroom, but they still had JPEG images at the end of the day when computers came out and they needed to make their film a print or a picture. They had either JPEGs or TIFFs, and they didn't. I'm pretty sure, there was a lot of people who didn't actually touch up an image that they just scanned. It wasn't that much room in Photoshop, and I don't even think Photoshop had a lot of room for it, but or support for it. So with that being said, I think that you can shoot whatever format you want to, RAW or JPEG or RAW plus JPEG if you wanted to, just because you can. Get your knowledge and information, like I said in the last video, which somebody cussed me out for. Oh, don't tell me to get my knowledge and information. Get your information about RAW. Get your information about JPEG. Then take a picture of RAW, take the same image in JPEG without you having to actually be at an important event. Figure it out and do what's best for you. I'm Devin with Jpeg Studios, and guys, have a great Thanksgiving.